Since my early 20s, I've made a living with just my guitar through gigging and teaching. So I'm condensing 22 years of hard-earned guitar knowledge into just minutes of actionable tips that'll save you a ton of time and frustration. So when I started out, I thought that I had to learn it all to become a good guitar player. But the problem was that's just not very realistic. I mean, that's just going to lead to frustration and burnout, and there's just not enough time, and it's also just not necessary. So then I realized what I needed to do was to focus on more fundamentals and the things that just interested me. So really just narrow it down to what you need to do, what you want to do, and not think that you have to do it all. Now, the next thing to avoid is kind of the flip side of that same coin. You know, when I was first learning, there was no YouTube and all these online courses. You can just be going down these rabbit holes with, but there was still the problem of learning just pieces of songs or little riffs here and there. And the problem with that is that, you don't feel like a real musician until you really start getting songs down and memorizing things. So what I realized I needed to do was just stop chasing the shiny objects that are around, which there still was, like buying lots of books and things before there were YouTube videos, So really just focus in on a narrower band of things you want to do. So now you know what to avoid. Let's talk about the most effective things to do to make your guitar playing better, faster. I broke it down to 4 categories, starting with practice techniques. So this first practice technique is so important. You want to try to memorize as much as you can. You don't have to memorize everything because not everything is that important, but the things that are important to you, you want to just get them down as much as you can and make it a part of you, and just kind of scratching the surface and just, always reading through charts and things like that is not going to do it. You got to make it a part of you. And, one effective strategy I have is to do a thing I call song code for learning full songs. You just whittle down all the parts to I for intro, V for verse, C for chorus, and so on, and just write out a little code for how the arrangement of the song goes. Because learning the parts is one thing, but you have to know what's the order that they go in, and that makes it a lot easier to memorize full songs. The next practice strategy is something that will help force you actually to memorize things, and that is to perform. Even if it's just in front of one person or making a video, maybe even just for yourself that you might not share with people, it really helps you to practice because you don't want to look bad. Nobody wants to look bad, so it forces you to get better a whole lot faster. So the next one is something that I do all the time, and that is transcribe music. It is one of the best things that's helped accelerate my growth as a guitarist, because when I hear something that I like, I'm like, what is that? Well, I figure it out by ear, and then not only do I now know what it is, but going through that process of using your ear, it makes you now identify what that is so much better. And you may think, I can't do that, it's tough. I used to not be able to do it either. I used to painstakingly work on just figuring out one note, but eventually you'll get it, and you get the next one faster and faster. And an easy way to make this better is to use slow down software, because you can slow it down, and it's like putting everything under the microscope, so you can hear it so much more clearly and then work your way up to a faster speed. Well, the next one is about having a practice routine, because consistency is key. And even if you just practice for, say, 10 minutes at a time, 3 times a week, but you have specific things that you're working on during that time, you will get better so much faster than just picking up your guitar and randomly playing through, whatever you're feeling in the moment, So make sure you've got somewhat of a routine, and even if it's not super strict, just kind of a loose, plan will make things move so much better. So like I mentioned before about transcribing your music and how it makes your ear so much better, if you specifically do ear training, that helps accelerate the growth of your inner ear even more. It's not really about your actual, ears, which you can't even see under my hair. There are ears under there. You could have a bad hearing, but have a really good inner ear. And, it's inside your head of how you figure out music and know what's going on. And using things like ear training apps can really help with that. And there are all kinds of free ones for phones and tablets and computers and things like that will help you to identify intervals, the distance between 2 pitches, and things like that. It will just make you be able to figure out and transcribe music so much faster, just doing a little bit here and there. And they're fun. They're all kind of like gamified. So the next one is to record and review. So it doesn't matter if you just use, the voice memo on your phone or use your camera to make an actual video, but do that and then listen or watch back to your playing, and you'll kind of see things that you like and don't like. It's like holding a mirror up to yourself, and it can be a little painful at times, but that's going to really help highlight the things that you need to work on or the things that you are doing well that you like. So those are some
practice techniques, but without proper learning strategies to help reinforce them, it's gonna all be for nothing. So let's look at a handful of those.
So the first learning strategy, and especially if you're just starting out, is to just take private lessons. There's so much stuff online and it's great, but taking lessons with somebody in person is the best thing you can do to kind of get a good start. And if you live somewhere where there aren't a lot of good guitar teachers, Zoom is good an option, but really being in person with somebody, there's no substitute for that. And if you can take with even more than one person, that's great, because everybody's got a different kind of perspective on how music works. Now, the second learning strategy is something that's got a little bit of like a buzzword you hear in the guitar community, the cage system. It really is such a great way to unlock the fretboard, though. It has made things so much more clear to me, just to kind of how the guitar works and how music works. And all it is just an acronym, for the open chords, C, A, G, E, D, right? And then taking these shapes, like the most common one, the E shape, like this, if you imagine playing like that, and then you move it up one fret, then you have to bar down. That would be an F in the E shape, or A in the E shape. You could play something like a G, C, D, and play it way up here in these different shapes, like the C shape. Right? So those are just using those different shapes, and you can learn all your scales that kind of go around with it. So it kind of like links up the scales that you're learning with chord shapes. So it goes beyond just thinking about just single note scales. And one of the best ways to learn the cage system is to have it all laid out so you can visualize it. And that's why I created a caged cheat sheet. So I put a link in the description down below if you want to just grab that and make use of that. The third one is something that really helps with learning songs faster, improvising better, and most importantly, makes your ear get better so much faster. And that's just learning some basic theory. Just the fundamentals and just really getting it down, just like some basic scales at the very least, some pentatonics, the major scale, minor scale, and just getting a little bit familiar with some different areas what makes a huge difference to your playing. Even if you just want to learn songs, it makes learning songs so much better. The next one is to focus on what you like, not what you think you need to learn or what others tell you to. So a lot of people think that you have to learn this, you have to learn that. And, other people may tell you, oh, you got to play like this, you got to play like that, but just focus on what you like. There's only so much time we have. So just focus on the things that really motivate you. The next one is to learn from guitarists that you do like, and not to just play like them and copy them, but ultimately play like you, and don't do this, compare despair thing, thinking like, oh, they play so great, I'll never play like that. But just think about, what are they doing differently that I'm not doing that I want to do, and that's going to help you move the needle further to getting better faster. But ultimately, focusing on the little things that you like, just take little pieces from guitars here and there. So those are your learning techniques, but it's still easy to lose motivation when you're playing alone. So let's talk about playing with others and how to use your time together most effectively.
So now when it comes to playing with other musicians, you want to get out of the trap of thinking of lead versus rhythm. A lot of people just think to puff up their ego and think, oh, yeah, I'm a lead player in a band. It really doesn't matter. And even if you do want to get better at lead, you really want to learn rhythm too, both learning about chords, so you get out of just kind of playing with just single note scales and you can attach to chords and get more melodic, but also actual rhythm, so your playing has more substance to it. It's not going to be just kind of meandering around and not in the pocket with everybody else. Now this next one is about tone. And the second band that I played in, there was this guy who was about twice my age. He'd been playing forever. He was so good. And I noticed that every time we were getting ready to rehearse, we were just kind of warming up, tuning up. I'd be like, oh, my tone sounds, really good. And his tone is weak. Mine was nice and kind of like thick, warm sounding, and his was just thin and weak. But I would record us, and then I'd listen back. He always sounded so much better, and it dawned on me one day it's because his tone was effective for not only playing in a band, but playing in this particular band, and he cut through the mix really well, and I just was buried in the mix, and it didn't sound very good. So your tone in isolation is very different than playing with a band. Now when it comes to playing with other musicians, the best thing you can do is play with people who are much better than yourself. It may be hard to do, we get insecure, but you will get better and so much faster in ways you just don't even realize. It's just kind of picking up on all these little nuances of what these people who are kind of like on a different level, can do. And if you don't have anyone to play with, maybe you live in an area where there's not a lot of people, you can try backing tracks. The problem is, a lot of them are kind of bland, they're just loops and things, but I have, I think, 250 plus tracks right now on YouTube that are with real musicians, and we organically jam in some of the tunes and stuff too. So I will put a link in the description down below to a playlist of those tracks. You can just check those out. Now, there's something else that I don't really want to talk about, that you don't really want to hear, but you gotta hear, because it's like the reason why people give up.
So the biggest thing that holds people back is they think a little bit too short term, and they think, oh, if I don't reach my goal of playing a certain way by this time, I'm just going to give up. It's good to have a little bit of impatience to motivate yourself, to push yourself to play, but you got to look at the big picture and be patient with yourself and know that the best results, they take time, This next one is something that will really help you move forward and have progress and make you see that progress, and that is having set specific achievable goals. Whether it's like, oh, I'm going to learn the song, I'm going to get it down, I'm going to have it memorized, or some scale exercise where you're going to play it at a certain speed with a metronome and write that down and keep track of that stuff. It makes a huge difference. This last one is sadly something that people do less and less of, and that is just dedicating time to just listen. And I don't mean just throwing on some music when you're in the car or something, or you're walking around. I mean like sitting down with a speaker or some headphones and just do some focused listening. It is a great way to get inspiration, and when you're feeling like you're in a bit of a rut, and also just learning from listening, getting your ears so much better. I mean, as a teenager, I used to just sit in my room and listen to music so much, and it's something that as we get older, we lose that. So just make sure you have a little bit of time, even if it's 10 minutes once a week, to just have focused listening. I cannot tell you how much benefit you'll get out of that. The number one thing is to block out all the noise out there and just have fun playing guitar. People get so stressed about it. Just have fun, But, it still won't happen through magic. You have to put in the time. So that means making sure you want to practice. If you ever struggle with picking up the guitar, even though you want to play, check out this video here where I show you my best strategy for dealing with those situations. You'll definitely never look at practice the same.